Okay. Here we are.
Here we go. Here we go. Hey, what's up, Twitch?
It's for some reason it's doing a speaker view instead of a gallery view. Does anyone know how to change that?
Let's see. Maybe if you were to.
On my personal Zoom, I have gallery view. Is anyone else looking at the stream? This is awkward. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tanzu Tuesday without Tiffany. So therefore, we're a little confused. I tried to find a T word. VMware.
Do you see live on mine? Like everything looks fine.
Yeah, we're live.
We're live, yeah.
Need to switch it from gallery to speaker view.
Or vice versa, yeah. I will ping Tiffany, and meanwhile, maybe you can just say hello. We can introduce everyone in, I think we can introduce everyone in this speaker.
Yeah, this will totally work out. Anyway, what's up? Welcome to Tanzu Tuesday. Today, we've got a host of very incredible engineers from the Spring team joining us to talk about SpringOne, a bunch of exciting content and talks that we can get to covering. Joe, why don't you kick us off? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. My name is Joe Granger. I'm on the Spring Security team. I've been on the team for, I'm just trying to think right now. I think it's about 5 years. I don't know, time flies when you're having fun. It's about 5 years. I think it's over 5 years, but yeah, I've been really heavily focused on the OAuth 2 and OpenID Connect support. Since joining the Spring team, we've come a long way since Spring Security 5. And just recently we announced, 0.2 Spring Authorization server, which is the first production ready, supported version. So we're super excited about that. Doing a talk on that actually tomorrow. And just having a blast on the team. And from outside of work, I got a little family. We just got one boy, and we love the outdoors. So we do a lot of hiking, and we started doing snowshoeing. With COVID, just trying to figure out what to do there in the wintertime. So we're doing snowshoeing, and I'm a hardcore snowboarder, so that's like one of my passions. So I'm always looking to what hill am I going to hit next, or mountain more like it, because I'm in Toronto and it's like dinky little hills there. So I usually go out west to BC and just rip it up with a couple of my friends. So yeah, that's me.
I love myself a good snowboarding trip. The best thing is when you can just get away from the traffic, and like actually get a place to stay if you can. If you're fortunate enough.
No doubt.
What about you, Glenn?
Hello, everybody. And hey, Lee, thank you for the intro. Folks, my name is Glenn Renfro. I am one of the VMware engineers on the Spring team. I work on Spring Cloud Dataflow, Spring Cloud Tasks, Spring Batch, and kind of anywhere where they need me. And when I'm not working on those, I'm a little outdoorsy myself, not a snowboarder. I'm in Atlanta, so I more go into the kayaking, fishing, as well as gardening. And as I told my fellow speakers here today, plants do like technical podcasts. If you want to hit me up later, I'll tell you which ones they like the most. With all that being said, when I'm not working on those as well, I'm a part of the Atlanta Java Users Group. I'm on the board of directors for that. And I'm also on the board of directors at DevNexus, which are all community-driven ways in which we can get the message of Java out to express all the good stuff that's going on in the community there.
The message of Java. Absolutely. We all like a good cup of Joe in the morning, right?
And there are many good Javas out there, my friend. Not only the language, but the beverage, I must say.
Lots of heavy hitters joining us from the fantastic engineering community behind Spring. Madhura, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Lee. Hi, everyone. My name is Madhura Bhave, and I'm also an engineer on the Spring team. Specifically, I work on Spring Boot. I think I've also been around for about 5 years, Joe, on the Spring team. It has been a while. It still feels like I'm new, but I guess it's because we learn something new every day. Also one of the managers on the Spring team, so that's been fun too. And outside of work, I guess we're kind of outdoorsy people too. So we like traveling and hiking, which has taken kind of a backseat in the past year, but looking forward to getting back to it very soon.
Absolutely. Everyone's looking to get outdoors, out of their door, if anything,
I
for
heard
any
this,
reason.
the stated national parks are like overrun lately, just with people who are dying to travel, and that's the only destination that feels safe. Yeah.
Yeah, a weekday is ideal. Over here at Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado, they have a ticket system. So you have to sign up for a time slot to enter the park gates. Pretty interesting. Yeah. And Ryan, have you been getting out at all? Tell us about yourself.
I mean, I try to every once in a while, try to leave this office that I'm in. Yeah, I'm Ryan Baxter. I am, like everyone else, an engineer on the Spring team. Specifically, I work on the Spring Cloud team. Been doing that for, I think, around the same time as Joe and Madura, 5 or 6 years or so. Work on a variety of projects that fall under the Spring Cloud umbrella, from config server to Spring Cloud Netflix to Spring Cloud Circuit Breaker to lately my focus has been around Spring Cloud Kubernetes. And yeah, when I'm not doing the engineering thing, I have 2 small kids that keep me relatively busy. So my son is 4 and my daughter is 7. They're about to start school, which is awesome. Just in time for tomorrow, so they won't be in the house interrupting my session. Yeah, when I'm not doing that stuff, I'm a avid exerciser. I have a gym I built in my basement, so you can either find me there or out on the trails around my house running. I like to do a lot of trail running too, so that's me.
So strength and endurance.
Yep.
Very cool. I'd love to have a comprehensive home gym. Kind of just have a bunch of equipment lying around.
Came in useful over the past year.
Yeah. Keep that COVID-19 off.
Yeah.
Spencer, have you been working with these fabulous folks for a few years as well, it seems like?
So am I the old man here then?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on the Spring team for 7 years.
Oh, no, don't say that. That makes me the old person on. I've been on for 8 years, so I'm going to shrink quietly.
All right, good. It's not me. I like air conditioning. So, this is one of those things. COVID has been great. I get to stay at home and be in my nice warm or cool, depending on the Michigan weather. No, we like going to the beach. We've been a few times this year, Lake Michigan, not the ocean, but we'll take what we can get. And so I'm in charge. I've founded Spring Cloud 7 years ago with Dr. Sire. And I've been working on that since. I'm the lead of this. I call them the Spring Cloud Core projects. So these are those things that Ryan mentioned: Spring Cloud Gateway, Spring Cloud Bus, Spring Cloud Commons, Spring Cloud Netflix.
Like, Spencer, we should start a Spring Cloud Cora project.
That would be awesome. Yeah, something interesting about me: when I started working on the Spring team, I have 4 daughters, so I'm severely outnumbered at home. But we took our family, we bought a big 5th wheel trailer. So this is a large, it's 44 feet, which is big. And we traveled the country for a year before it was cool. So a lot of the early Spring Cloud stuff was me riding on the road. So.
That seems like a super cool life. I aspire to that. Yeah, for sure. I hear there are white sand dunes in Michigan when you say go to the beaches, or have you checked those out?
Yeah, some of the some of the beaches in Michigan on Lake Michigan have dunes that are pretty big. Yep. We took the stairs on the side. We didn't walk up them.
They're that big though. I was picturing smaller.
No, they're pretty big, and we weren't even at the big popular ones. We were just kind of on the outskirts. So yeah.
So one of those where it's like beautiful in a photo, but maybe kind of treacherous and uncomfortable to visit.
There were Marines training on the ones we were watching, running up and down the hills, carrying stuff, kind of like Ryan does in his crazy obstacle courses. But yeah.
Well, that's everyone that we have with us from the Spring team. We also have some, as Whitney mentioned, some people from our advocacy team. Cora has joined us here. So good to see you again. I always like hanging out with you. And then, yeah, we've got me, my name's Lee, and Whitney here with us as well. So Whitney, did you want to lead us into some of our discussion topics here?
Yeah,
one thing sounds like an organized activity, but I mean, I think we can talk about SpringOne.
Well, so Lee and I are both pretty new to the team. I've only been here since June, and this is my first SpringOne. So I just wanted to talk about SpringOne kind of more generally, and maybe talk about like what's different about it being virtual versus in person.
Oh,
one of you fabulous folks can take it away. Oh yeah, Cora.
I want to say something because last year, last year it was virtual. Last year was the first year it was virtual, and I have to say the SpringOne website that manages, like, you have on one screen all of the tracks so you can easily see what's going on and switch between things. You can get to things quickly. That for me was like leaps and bounds, like, of an improvement on a conference experience. And I actually haven't honestly seen any other conference. Maybe I haven't been to the right conferences, but SpringOne website is the best conference website that I've personally seen. And then it's got this super fun social track where, there's like magic shows or yoga or Zumba or like how to make a cocktail or I don't know, all kinds of really creative things.
What's the deal with this Rory guy? I see everyone freaking out on the social channels and Slack. Does anyone know he leads exercise classes or something? Apparently he's hilarious.
Well, you should attend them and find out.
Oh my God, Rory, we're seeing it in the chat. He's amazing. Yeah. So Tasha, will you tell us what's the deal? How's exercise so amazing? It would be good to learn in life in general how to make it so exciting. And then Glenn, I think you were going to say something about how it's different.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with two things. One, I'm going to say first off a beginner track, which I think is fantastic. It was our first year really introducing it, and it was made available through just having a online presence, right? So we can actually reach out to the full gambit of everything from people who've never touched Spring before all the way to the experts. So we have a full range of content. And like Cora said, we have a place if you need, like, I need to de-geek, you have a place that you can kind of pop off to and be able to learn, something completely different, which is fantastic. Now, the second thing that I like about having a virtual experience is I have had this problem before at going to a conference. I like to get to my room early. I like to get up front because I want to be seeing what the speaker has to say and what she's trying to introduce or what he's trying to introduce. And then you realize you're in the wrong room. And how do you quickly and gently walk out of that room because you chose the wrong one?
Especially
it's anonymous, folks. If you're in the wrong room, you could just click bye and go to a none completely different. So, opportunities everywhere with virtual, right?
I appreciate that, like, you add like how excited you are in real life and get to the front, but then that makes it extra awkward to leave when you realize you're in the wrong spot.
Also, there's one other thing. I'll make a third, and folks, I'm sorry I'm stealing time here, is if it is a packed room, I don't have to sit on the floor or stand in the back like this, right? Another thing, I don't have to worry about finding power for my laptop, my iPhone. Everybody congregated around the power adapter. So many things are advantage when you go virtual.
Do you think moving forward, conferences generally are going to have a virtual experience alongside the in-person experience?
I do, and the reason why is because we have a couple of things that when we look at going to a conference, there's a travel component, right? So there's cost associated with it. But there's the advantage to going online in a real conference is what we call the hallway chat. Just meeting with the speakers, meeting with people that you've never met before at different companies, different organizations, and learning from these people, right? And getting new ideas, new concepts from not necessarily speakers, but the attendees. And that's the best part about a conference. But at the same time, we still have to keep our development going, and not everybody can go. So how can we negotiate that? So I think that going forward, you're going to see a blend where we're going to have an in-conference presence, but some of that material will be certainly made open to a virtual. And for some people, they just feel more comfortable catching it virtually, right?
Yeah.
And so there's many opportunities on both if we can do a blending.
I like with SpringOne how we're doing breakout rooms for the speakers. So after they give their talk, I understand there'll be a link put up in the related Slack channel that will direct the people to a Zoom chat, so you can get a in-person Q&A experience with the speakers.
Yeah,
so
and I think that's one of the advantages of virtual. I find that people are more willing to ask questions because they're not in front of you, and so they're less embarrassed about it. Or shy, or I should say. So I remember last year I got a lot more just interaction with people that attended my talk in those chat rooms and stuff like that. Even it also gives you the advantage of, like, because we're using Slack, if you think of something after the session, you can always jump in that chat room and ask it, a few hours later or the next day or something like that, and get the answer from the person that gave the presentation. So there's certainly some advantages. Both from a speaker and an attendee point of view to that model.
Cool. How can we replicate all going to the bar after all the talks are over at the end of the day?
I haven't figured that out yet.
Rory's the next best thing, I suppose. Tasha says his outfits are outstanding, matched only by his energy and personality. So I'll be checking out one of the Roy experiences for sure. So from here, does anyone have anything to add about the conference experience, or maybe SpringOne generally? Like, let's say, what is SpringOne? Who's meant to go? And what can you hope to get out of it?
Well, I was going to add that, besides the breakouts and the obviously fun social track, there's also hands-on workshops. There's some hands-on workshops that are led by instructors, and there are self-paced hands-on workshops. So definitely check those out. There's really a lot of learning opportunities. I think to your other question, I think it's for several audiences. I mean, there's stuff for people interested in Java Spring. There's stuff for, Kubernetes oriented, security, all kinds of like those topics. And then as far as personas, I would say obviously developers, operators, and there's a lot of transformation stories for, people who lead transformations. There's a lot of customers talking about how they managed transformation, whether it's from the ops angle or the developer angle at scale. So there's, really, like, I think a little bit for everyone.
I love a good user story and how it takes the technology and really brings it to life. And I was poking around the workshops too. I like that there's some oriented toward beginners, like they're oriented toward all different skill levels, which I think, Glenn, you were talking about at the beginning. There's a beginner track in terms of learning too, which I love, because we're all beginners in something. Even if you know Spring really well, you might be a beginner in Kubernetes or vice versa. So I really like that there's something for everyone.
And that happens when somebody will ask me a question. It's like, I'm using Spring X and I want to ask you a question about it. And I'm going, I have no idea. I mean, I work on these other Spring projects, but I can lead you to the person that can answer you the question or answer that question.
And so can someone speak to Spring generally, or excuse me, Cora, if that's what you did? Just like, who is the audience and who is meant to go, and what are some things you can get from it?
I think Cora pretty much
Summed it up.
covered it all, but I totally agree with Glenn that with the beginner track, it doesn't really matter where you are on your Spring journey. You could be just starting off with Spring, or you could be a Spring expert and looking to see what are the latest trends in the Spring landscape. So that's definitely something for everybody.
That's a really good point. Latest trends is an excellent reason to be at a conference.
One of the talks that I will be giving is called What is Spring? And the goal of that is twofold, is if you don't know what Spring is, that's a talk for you to probably go to. The other thing is, if it's been a long time since you touched Spring and you don't know what's been added in in the last few years or recently, that's what the talk goes through. It's like, here's our suite of projects, and here's some, ideas that you can take advantage of. So the goal is that if you're walking in and you're a college student, or you are retooling your career and you want to get into the Java ecosystem, this conference is for you, because you could say, I need to learn more about how to do, what tools are available for me from Spring to do microservices, like in the Spring Cloud Suite kind of zone. How can I take advantage of Spring Boot? We have this capability, or even talks talking about from ground up Spring security, right? Go for it. And that's what's best about it. And like I said, it's for even the experts, because there's some really deep talks in here. So that's what's awesome.
Yeah, I'm seeing that talk on the schedule, Glenn. It'll be track 1, day 1. Beginner-friendly Spring.
Will you link to it in our chat?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I can pop that into the Twitch chat over here. This Control V. A little bit of a keyboard aficionado as a programmer. Do we have, actually, are any of you keyboard nerds? I really overspoke. I just use my laptop keyboard.
We have Spencer, Glenn, and Ryan all raising their hands.
Yeah, I have an Ergodox EZ keyboard, which is split into 2 pieces and fully customizable with cool LEDs. And
what kind of key map do you use on Ergodox?
So I run Linux, so I have the standard kind of Linux key mapping, but yeah, it's pretty slick.
I've had like fellow coworkers before who were Ergodox nerds, but I've never like successfully typed on one.
I had to relearn how to type.
I see. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Is it anything like QWERTY at all? I remember another one of my coworkers was a Dvorak user. But...
No, the keys. I mean, the printed keycaps are QWERTY. You can obviously rechange. You can buy it with blank ones, but all the other keys outside of the letters are blank, and you can map them to whatever you want. So
fascinating.
And there are multiple layers. You can click buttons that do layers, and yeah. Anyway, I could go on for too long.
Yeah, it's like the perfect rabbit hole to go down. I mean, there's just endless parameters that you could customize. Meanwhile, I just propped my laptop up in a box. I'm going to be honest. For my wrists, keep them healthy. What other, there's actually a really interesting part of Spring that I know is becoming more popular, and it's the ecosystem of tools that allow you to compile these Java programs to native binaries. Do any of you all work on that, or can somebody talk to why this is cool or why people are doing it?
I will, but I think somebody else can too. I don't want to.
I could too.
Yeah.
I think we all could. None of us work on it. None of us work on it directly. We work on it indirectly. But so Spring Native, and I've actually got the talk up in my my browser here as one of my things. So I'm pasting it in the Twitch chat. So you have to start on the Java ecosystem, right? So there's a Java virtual machine called Graal VM, and one of its components, it's a normal virtual machine that can run, jars and things like that, just normal Spring Boot applications. But one of the components of it is to be able to compile Java classes, Java code to native code, right? So you don't need a Java interpreter to run it. It was a research project by Oracle for a long time, but now it's getting into a commercial thing. And it does a number of things. It reduces the size of the executable is one, right? So what you load, what's required is smaller. The startup time is much much faster. You'll see demos of millisecond startup times and things like that. Another thing it does is reduces the memory footprint that traditionally goes with a Java virtual machine. So these make it good for lots of reasons. You can write a command line application and distribute it, right? It's just a single executable. It's a great application for serverless. Sebastian would say, like, that's not the only thing, right? It's good for other things too. So because of the reduction in memory and other physical hardware constraints, it can be a good thing just to reduce costs of running your applications in the cloud. And the Dave Sire in the back of my head will say there are trade-offs, right? So the Java virtual machine is really, really good at optimizing on the fly as your code is running the hot paths. This is the JIT, the just-in-time compiler, right? The hotspot VM from Oracle. This is the thing that recompiles your code as it's running. You lose that to some degree in with these precompiled things. So it all has to happen. It's ahead of time, AOT, right? And so Sebastian, Deleuze, Stefan, Nicole, who else has been working on it?
Brian Clausel.
Yeah, Brian Clausel, Andy Clement.
Simon.
Yeah, these folks have been working on it for a very long time. It was a experimental project for a very long time, but those things will be moving into the core of Spring as we go on. So yeah, it's very exciting. I think lots of people will think of other languages because it's lightweight, this, that, or the other, and you get the advantages, all those advantages, but now you get it in one of the things I talk about with Spring Cloud Gateway is if you want to extend it, you can write it in Java, right? So now you can write those things. Enterprises have adopted huge amounts of time and expense in training people in Java, and so now you can get a similar experience in Java. So
Yeah, a lot of those benefits sound like things worth considering trade-offs for. So that's super exciting to me as somebody who's just infatuated with container runtimes, right? I really want
to get an app to actually use the ahead of time compilation is a big deal. And so we're doing this, those folks are doing the Spring thing. They're making it easier to get an application to compile using this technology. And so the idea being that with very little input from a developer, you'll be able to get with our team doing the hard work for the most part. So they spent a lot of time, and I've watched it evolve, and it's been really fun to watch.
Super cool. Well, I'm going to jump in. I'm really interested to ask you each individually what talks you're especially excited to go to and why. And then I will be taking copious notes and will inform what I do. So Joe, would you like to start us off about what you're excited to do at SpringOne?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was looking up some talks. I mean, Spring GraphQL definitely looks like an interesting talk for sure. I'm not too familiar with it. I know Rob's been working on it. But yeah, it's definitely a talk that I want to check out and just learn some more. The one that really got me interested in, just the whole DevSecOps approach This one is actually, I'll just paste this link in the chat here so everyone could have access to it.
Excellent. Thank you.
But yeah, this one over here. Yeah, this one here, quite interested in the whole just detecting vulnerabilities just during the whole, publish my code, and then as it goes through the CI process, detecting vulnerabilities, right? This area I'm definitely interested in. Never heard of this, this, what's it called here? It's Code QL. I was kind of looking at that earlier. But yeah, it's basically just like a scripting language that allows you to just, put together some scripts and scan for some vulnerabilities. So yeah, that's definitely another talk that I'm interested in checking out and just learning some more. But yeah, those are the two I would say. I mean, Spring Native for sure. I mean, that's definitely, I have not looked into it too much myself yet, but it's definitely on my radar. I'm looking to get a native image of Spring Authorization Server going as soon as I kind of, finish off some of the work that I'm currently working on. But that's definitely, coming up. So I'm looking to learn some more on that too. But yeah, there's a ton to learn. You're I mean, for myself, and I think everyone on the team, you're really focused on your area, right? And it's hard to find that time. And SpringOne is great for that, right? You can check out some talks, learn a few things, and just kind of go from there. So those are the main talks that I'm definitely checking off during SpringOne for sure.
Those are great tips. I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.
Glenn, what are you excited about?
I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm not ashamed to do so. I'm going to go ahead and go with Jürgen Haller's talk, which is coming in on, I think it's day 1, and it's at I think it's, see, where's he at? Yep, from Spring Framework 5.3 to 6.0 at 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight, and basically he's going to be covering where we're going with Spring. Right, so that's going to be awesome. I think it's also going to have some discussions on Java 17. I'm going to also pick on Nate Schuda's talk, which is
Nice.
Spring for Architects, and that's day 2.
He's good presentation skills. He always.
He is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now there is a talk that I think a lot of folks should. Now I'm going to have to miss it because I'm in another track being a MC, but I'm going to catch on recording. It's proactively designing for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's going to be. I think that's like a must watch because when I'm writing apps or if I'm trying to support people writing apps, I think this is very important. So that's one of the others, and. I'm going to throw one more in there, folks, and I apologize. Is this a Spring Cloud Function where we were, where we are, where we're going on September 2nd at 11:05? That is going to have Oleg in it as one of the speakers in it, and I think the premise of writing a method once or function once and using it, whether you're going to pop it in a stream, a web app, or as on a fast, right? As on name your favorite cloud provider, is awesome. So I think that's my picks of the talks so far.
Cool. We have some input from the chat. I think this is maybe speaking to Joe. Sweet Killer 9 said, same with new auth server. I need to try it. And then Tasha said to you, Glenn, that Jacob is co-presenting with Nate too. So that talk by Nate
sweet.
Supercharged. Yeah.
Awesome.
Medora, what are you excited about?
Yeah, I think there's so many great talks, and I'm actually excited about not presenting this time so I can attend all of these talks without having to worry about my presentation. So one which I found very interesting from the abstract, it's on day 1 at 8:05 a.m. Pacific. It's called Staying Ahead of the Curve by Trisha G. And it's basically about, how in our industry things move pretty fast and it's really hard to keep up with everything that's coming up and the latest new and shiny thing that's out there. So I think her talk is going to talk about how you balance out learning about what's new and shiny out there, and at the same time not mindlessly just run around trying to get onto the next
Oh, I love that.
latest
Yeah.
trend. So yeah, I am kind of excited about it because personally I do find myself struggling at times to keep up with the latest trends, and it's hard to know which one's going to stick and which one's just a hype.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
So how to be strategic about what you take the time to learn about. That's really smart and really good.
Yeah. The other one that I found interesting is it's because I'm particularly interested in TDD and I'm interested in the Spring security side of things. So there's a talk by Eleftheria Stein on test-driven security. I can link to it in Zoom with me so that you can post
Sure
it.
thing. Yeah.
So yeah, just excited about the combination of TDD and Spring security. Of course, Jürgen's talk about Spring Framework's journey from 5.3 to 6, and some of the things that he plans to cover about what we're planning to do in Spring Framework 6, in the upcoming Spring Framework 6 release, will be super interesting. There's just so many, like I'm just going through the schedule here. Inner loop development with Spring Boot on Kubernetes, Dave's talk. I think as developers, all of us, any changes that we make to our code, we just want to see them in action as quickly as possible. So especially when you're running on a cloud platform such as Kubernetes, it can be tricky to replicate the kind of code that you're writing locally and what effect it would have on a cloud platform such as Kubernetes. So I think this talk will be interesting for those developing Spring Boot applications on Kubernetes.
That's fantastic advice and really good talks you've singled out. I'm excited for those. Ryan, what's your thought?
Yeah, Madura stole that
She
Dave Sire talk. But as someone who works a lot with Kubernetes, I think that not personally for me to attend, but I think as people start to work with Kubernetes, the first frustration they have is just like, I made these changes and it takes me 6 minutes to see them running in Kubernetes. So how to do that rapidly, like you're used to with your local dev environment. So I know Dave has some great tips around that stuff. So that's going to be a must attend talk if you're a developer working with Kubernetes for sure. I actually really like as someone who attends SpringOne that works on the Spring team, I always like the talks that show how our users are benefiting from the stuff that we do. So all the code that we write, which sometimes we don't really get to see as the people who are working on the projects all too often. We get a lot of stuff like, oh, this doesn't work, help me. But we don't get a lot of like, oh, this is an amazing thing, so thank you, it revolutionized whatever, right? So there's a couple of talks which I am particularly interested to listening to. One is on September 1st at 2:35 Eastern Standard Time, which is where I am. So I'm sorry for jumping around time zones here. But it's called How Spring Cloud Gateway Orchestrated Our App Modernization. So as someone that works on the Spring Cloud team, and it's about how AARP utilized Spring Cloud Gateway. So I love to hear those types of talks where we actually get to see the stuff used in action, used in real life, and how it benefited their business and stuff like that. And there's another similar one. Click through the open tabs I have here. Modernizing customer messaging at T-Mobile. So again, using messaging and how they use that built on top of Spring to modernize their application. So I just love those types of stories from users and customers or whatever there might be. People are using Spring and how it kind of changed the game for them. So that's always interesting to me.
Yeah.
Oh, can I throw one more in there?
Of course.
So on the social track, I saw there's a coffee connoisseur session to step up your coffee game, and I really enjoy making a good cup of coffee, so I'm gonna definitely attend that one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how they manage one that has so much to do with smell and taste, how they convey that virtually.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and the second, sorry, I didn't mention the date and time of the second one. The second one's on at September 2nd at 5:05 Eastern Standard Time.
Tasha's piping in. She's saying, Ryan, what about your talk, friend?
Yeah, I feel that I shouldn't promote my own stuff.
It's on my list, so I'll get to it.
Okay, yeah, so I'll let Spencer talk to it then. Yeah.
All right. Perfect segue, Spencer.
So I guess we'll start with if we're segueing Ryan's talk. I always love to watch my team, right? Ryan and I work pretty closely together, so he's a fantastic speaker and has been working on a lot of stuff with Spring Cloud and Kubernetes and when to use what. Spring Cloud has a huge portfolio, and probably one of the biggest thing for our users is when to use what pieces, especially if I'm on this platform or that one. And so be a good talk. He's got some, you're going to talk about some of your testing stuff that you've done?
Yeah, some of that, as well as some new stuff that we haven't yet put out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
sneak peek.
Yeah, it'll be a good talk. I'm gonna paste a large block of talks that are all kind of related here into the chat. So I didn't format. That's off ugly. Dang it. I have nice separated lines between each of them. So I've been doing a lot with RSocket recently, and so these are, as I was looking through I've known about most of these, but these are most of the RSocket focused talk. Learning RSocket using RSC by Toshiaki Maki.
Will you back up and say what RSocket is?
RSocket, yes. RSocket is a network protocol. The folks that created things at Netflix, like Hystrix, which is a circuit breaker, and Ribbon, which is a load balancer, and other things that they use to deal with distributed systems.
Mm-hmm.
For their second go around, they decided to make it a network protocol. So that's what RSocket is. And it is based on reactive streams, the reactive programming model. And so you can, things like back pressure across the network is interesting. One of the other talks in there, let's see, the collaborative applications at scale. If you've ever heard of Canva, I see commercials for it all the time. They use RSocket on the back end, which is pretty neat. I know our own Oleg Dokuka, he'll be doing this multi-platform chat app. One of our friends at Axon IQ is doing event sourcing with RSocket, which was pretty sweet. Actually fits right along. One of the talks is mine, and our other team member, Olga Macheshek Sharma, will be talking about adaptable systems with cloud native architectures, and we do talk about RSocket in there. So we actually talk about event sourcing a little bit, and so it actually fits right in. So there's a whole bunch of talks around RSocket that make things. So Ryan mentioned Gateway. There'll be some Gateway in our talk too. So if you're curious about Gateway and RSocket, this is a good talk to come to. Another one that I will bring up. I'm highlighting my team here. So I've got Ryan. I've got Olga. So the others, Marcin Greszczak, Jonathan how do you say his last name? And they are working the Spring Observability. So that one, they also are doing a keynote, which I've heard is very good and very entertaining. So there's a preview of at least one of the keynotes. The keynotes, I'm really looking forward to the day one keynote section. Actually, Jürgen not only giving his talk, but he will be giving a keynote live, I believe. I think all the other ones are anyway.
Recorded.
Yeah, pre-recorded, so he'll be live. The GraphQL folks will be doing a keynote as well. Oh, so the GraphQL talk, that was Joe, that was a great one to point out. But the folks that are doing GraphQL Java, which is the de facto GraphQL library for Java, are collaborating. So it's it's Rasen Stoyanchev and someone from Atlassian that maintains GraphQL Java will be doing this talk and keynote, I believe. And we've also been collaborating with Netflix on GraphQL because they've released their system open source, DSG, if I recall correctly. And so we've been collaborating with them on the GraphQL in Spring so that basically we can replace whatever things they've done that make sense and push it up into Spring. So they're good folks over at Netflix. I've worked with them for 7 years. They always have good stuff.
Yeah, so many talented people sharing their knowledge. It's really exciting. Speaking of Cora, what are some, let's talk about your talk. You have one coming up. Speaking of talented people sharing their knowledge. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so talented people sharing their knowledge. My co-speaker is amazing, and I presented with her last year. She's just so sharp, and I really it's a pleasure and an honor to work with her. So I got lucky enough to.
What's her name?
Maria Gabriella Brody. Sorry, terrible introductions. Gabri Brody. She's a staff solutions engineer at VMware, and so last year we presented on comparison between mesh and gateway, and this year we're going to be talking about testing with test containers and just kind of trying to do more prod-like testing, as shifting as far left as possible and hitting kind of a few different aspects of that. But the bigger focus is using test containers. That's the key there. And so that's the very last talk on Thursday, actually. So looking forward to that. Thank you for the opportunity to plug myself.
I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it too.
So after Cora's talk, we'll be heading to the virtual bar. Is that what it is?
Right.
That's what you're looking for, right, Whitney?
Our VR sets, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, what sorts of use cases are there for test containers? Cora,
I mean, yeah. So test containers can basically start up a container that you can test against, and that container, and anything that you can containerize can be started up by test containers. So you can be testing against something against a database. So rather than using H2, you could test against an instance of a database that has more fidelity to what you're going to use in production. But there's all kinds of different systems, messaging, et cetera. There's also, another idea, which is that what if the app that you want to test is the one that needs to be containerized? So then you could actually use test containers to start that. And that would be the system under test rather than just the backing service that you're testing against. Gabby's going to show some network sort of chaos testing that you can do, leveraging this model on top of test containers. Let's see what else. I think those are some big ones. They support Docker Compose. So there's a lot of use cases that you can support.
And what are you excited to go to as an attendee?
Well, so this is so confession to the audience out there. So a few minutes before we started this stream, I was I want to go last because there's so much on the Spring website. I want to see if there's other things that I want to mention. So by going last, I was trying to keep track as everybody else was talking about like, oh, I had that one on my list, but that one's not. So I was kind of good until maybe the third person talking, and then I got confused. So I'm not sure anymore.
So you might repeat content, but that's okay. It just, something can be double endorsed.
I'll try to. So I do recall that Glenn mentioned this talk, proactively designing for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I will highlight that there's another talk called Building Gender Diversity in Organizations to Deliver Award-Winning Products, which is really interesting. In their abstract, they say that in 1985, 38% of people going into IT careers were women, and now the percentage is 25%. So yeah.
I didn't expect it to go down.
Right? Yeah. So, but here, so there are folks from One Magnify say their IT department is over 40% of positions being held by women. So I think just hearing them, they're in the Agile leadership track on September 1st at 4 p.m. Eastern. So that should be interesting. Then within sort of like the Java Spring family of talks, some of the ones I had, I always love the talks that kind of give you that step back view and like, this is how Java or Spring or anything, right, evolved over time. These are the major leaps forward. So I think there's a talk of a tour of the modern Java platform, which I think gives that sort of high level overview. Bruce Eckel and James Ward from MindView and Google Cloud are giving that one. Of course, Jürgen Hohler. I think that's been mentioned. And then, native is a big topic this year. So obviously, I think that the Spring Native talk by Sebastian Deleuze has been mentioned. But speaking of that, there's actually going to the workshop sessions. There are workshops. There's an introduction to Spring Native workshop with GraalVM, so hands-on workshop. And then there's a second one actually, which is advanced Spring Native with GraalVM for practitioners. So 2 hands-on workshops at 2 different levels. I think they're brought to you by the same team. They kind of split it in 2 depending on kind of maybe, how deep you want to go or where you're starting. Do both, right? Start with a beginner, go to the advanced.
Love it.
I've got a few more, but let me just say this, I guess. Another, like a big topic that I see. Oh, by the way, I made a word cloud. I took the abstracts and I made a word cloud. So I was hoping that I could use that as like a guide to say, these topics really stand out. And this is the ones I'm going to highlight. I don't know if that really happened.
So what did you make this word cloud from?
From the abstracts.
Oh, nice. Oh, I love it.
So, I mean, I know APIs is in there. So that gets me to, Spencer's talk on gateway patterns. I think that's going to be super interesting. Kubernetes is somewhere in there. So, Ryan's talk, of course, on Spring Cloud and Kubernetes. And there's also another talk with Bella and I have to find it to see what it is, but who she's speaking with. But Bella Bai and Alberto Rios talking about building an operator in Java, a series of fortunate events, building an operator in Java. So I think that's fun. And then there's these sort of, transformation stories to hear, as Ryan was saying, how people are actually using these technologies and what impact it's having in their customer, at their, in their organization. So there's Dispute talking about technology transformation, lessons from large orgs and startups. There's a measure twice, cut once, using team operation metrics to optimize a scaling software workshop. Those are 2 of our folks from VMware talking about that. And a couple of others. Oh, sorry, I'm in a room with some sound I can't control. Okay. I think that's it for me because I can't control that sound.
I guess the live streaming shows give some real character. So I want to single out, I know other people here are giving talks. Glenn, I believe you're giving at least 1 talk, right?
Well, I'm giving 2. The first talk will be, I'm starting off with what is Spring, again, for those folks that are just kind of getting into it, or like I said, you haven't been in there in a long time. This talk is for you, or if you're like, I don't know what talks to listen to, it kind of gives you a general guide, kind of like what we're doing today here. So it's a good kickoff for those folks that are new to Spring. The other one I'm going to be at one of the last talks too. So I have one at the very beginning and one at the end. And so me and Cora are going to kind of bifurcate our audiences here.
It's a SpringOne sandwich with Glen bread.
Yeah. So it is actually how to migrate your apps off of a mainframe using Spring. So we're going to be talking about how do we get our data off of a mainframe and keep that as the data comes off, how do we keep it fresh? How we can migrate our batch jobs, because remember, I work on Spring Batch from time to time, so batch is not bad, batch is good. And then I'm throwing in a little bit of GraphQL. I'm creating a GraphQL app to show how you can have your microservices take advantage of that data that's come off of mainframe and you've deposited in the cloud, and it's fresh, it's up to date with what's in the mainframe. How can we access that data using GraphQL? So it's those are the two talks I'll be giving.
Excellent. And then Joe, are you giving a talk?
Yeah, I am. Getting started with Spring Authorization servers. So yeah, really excited about this. We actually, just to give a little bit of context, back in, I think 2017, anyways, it's been 4.5 years in the making where, back then when I joined the team, the OAuth store is a bit fragmented within the Spring ecosystem, spread out between Spring Security OAuth, the legacy project that's going to reach end of life next year in May 2022, as well as there's some OAuth code in Spring Boot and Spring Cloud Security. Back then, we just decided we're going to rewrite this thing, right, and roll it into Spring Security. So we started off with OAuth 2 client support in version 5, and then we introduced resource server support in 5.1, and we just continued building the support. We're at 5.5 now, or 5.5.2. And past year and a half, we've been about a year and 4 months. We've been building out authorization server, the final piece, in the major roles within the OAuth space. And so yeah, we've come a long way, and ultimately we've reached feature parity. With this whole rewrite, it's been a huge undertaking, but super excited about it. There's a lot more to build out on authorization server, but we got the core, we got the foundation in place, and yeah, this is our first talk, so yeah, super excited about it.
That's very exciting. It
Yeah,
must be rewarding after
it is
years-long journey. Yeah,
super rewarding, definitely.
Is anyone else giving talks who I missed? I don't think so. All right, does anyone have anything to add that maybe we didn't naturally organically cover about SpringOne that it feels important to mention? The silence is good, right? I see.
I'm excited.
I think we've done a pretty good job giving y'all a kickoff to SpringOne. So if you have not registered, you can still register. The price to registration, I forget, Whitney, what is the cost to get into SpringOne? I forget. Is it $1,000?
It was extreme on one end or the other.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been free. So hop in and register, folks. I think it's going to be it. No, I don't think. I know it's going to be an awesome experience.
I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there. I'm going to catch all y'all's talks that I can. And it's been a pleasure talking with everyone today. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.
You too.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.